This man is the newest defensive coordinator of the New Orleans Saints. The Saints have officially made their last big hire to their coaching staff. They got the head coach. They just hired the offensive coordinator, Doug Nussmeier. And as of Friday, they officially hired their defensive coordinator after going through a week-and-a-half thorough process. And the guy they decided to roll with is Brandon Staley, the former Chargers head coach. And is anyone really surprised by this?
Is anybody surprised about what happened? No, man. Nope.
Even before Kellen Moore was hired by the Saints, there was talks about Brandon Staley being his defensive coordinator, and that is exactly what happened. But it is kind of weird that Kellen Moore's former boss is now going to be working for Kellen Moore, and Kellen Moore is now his boss. That may be a little weird. Regardless though, the Saints now have all three big coaching titles filled out: head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and if you want to also include special teams coordinator, they have that one filled as well. And today we're going to be talking about the Brandon Staley hiring to the Saints as the defensive coordinator. There's a few mixed reviews about him. Some people like the hire, some people don't like the hire, some people don't know what to think. And if I'm being honest, I'm a little bit of one of those people who don't know what to think. And that's why we're diving into the hire of this video. Make sure to subscribe. We're on our way to 10K this year. 72% of you who watch these videos are not subscribed. Just double check it's free and it helps the channel out a lot. And it takes 5 seconds. So the Saints have officially hired Brandon Staley as their next defensive coordinator. And he'll be focusing on the defense while Kellen Moore and Doug Nussmeier handle the offensive side of things. And as they get into this rebuild on the Saints, they have a lot of things to fix. The defense needs a lot of help. The offense needs a lot of help. And those are the three guys who are going to be putting it together. Now, looking at Brandon Staley's history as a just coach in general, he started his NFL career as a coach with the Bears from 2017 to 2018 as an outside linebackers coach. I think we all remember that 2018 Bears defense being outstanding. Vic Fangio was the defensive coordinator that year for the Chicago Bears. And then he followed Vic Fangio to the Broncos in 2019 when he was hired as a head coach for the Broncos. So he does have some work and some history there with Vic Fangio, a guy who a lot of people saw put on a masterclass in the Super Bowl, shutting down Patrick Mahomes, utilizing his talent to the full max. Then he became the Rams defensive coordinator in 2020. And that year he led the Rams to the #1 defense in 2020. They had the #1 scoring defense, 18.5 points per game. Yards allowed per game was first, under 300 yards. Passing yards allowed per game, under 200 yards first, which is insane. That is an insane number. Sacks, 53, second in the NFL, and they were third in the NFL in terms of rushing yards allowed. Very, 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 very good defensive numbers put together right here. But something you have to consider, how good was that defense for the Rams in that roster? They had Aaron Donald, they had Jalen Ramsey. But I think it is important to note that he had talent and utilized his talent to the full maximum. Some coaches have talent and they don't know how to use it. He had the talent, one of the best defensive players in the NFL, in NFL history, a really good corner, still in his prime, and he had them and used them to lead the defense to being the best in the NFL. Now, he did have a great defense with the Rams. He was a part of some great defenses with the Bears, was a part of a Vic Fangio staff with the Broncos in 2019. But when he became a head coach with the Chargers, his defense really started to struggle. He was the Chargers head coach for 3 seasons. He went 9-8, 10-7, and 5-9 in his 3 years with the Chargers. But in those 3 years as the Chargers head coach, his defense is ranked 23rd, 20th, and 28th in 3 seasons calling plays defensively for the Chargers, and people considered him a defensive guru. That is concerning. We did see Dennis Allen be considered a very good defensive coordinator, and when he took over as head coach, we saw the defense decline and dip a little bit. A lot of that does have to do because now Brandon Staley, or Dennis Allen in this case, have a lot more on their plate than just the defensive side of the ball. But the issue with Brandon Staley is we've only seen him be a defensive coordinator for 1 year. In that 1 year, he had Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey in a very stout roster. How much of that was the roster? How much of that was Brandon Staley? Then when he goes to a less talented Chargers defense, he's not able to even get in the top half of the league in terms of overall defense. But as Ian Rappaport says right here, what the Saints are getting with Brandon Staley, he's a coach ready to lead, as he did in 2020 with the Rams, helping them to the #1 total defense and scoring defense. He helped the Bears in 2018 as the outside linebackers coach. And with the Chargers, Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, Derwin James all had career years with him. So maybe the numbers as an overall defense weren't there, but he was still getting production out of individual players like Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, Derwin James. Didn't Khalil Mack have like a 16 sack season like a few years ago? I'm pretty sure that was under Staley, and it kind of seemed like Khalil Mack was on his way to being washed and had a huge season. So I think something that we can draw from his experiences is that he hopes his players have success, but can the unit as a whole have success is the next question. Brandon Staley was hired on Friday, and it took a little bit longer than expected. The Saints did interview some other candidates, like Eagles defensive backs coach Christian Parker. He was someone I was very intrigued by. They also interviewed someone from the Vikings, Durante Jones, I believe is his name. But something that wasn't reported until after the hire was that they interviewed Colorado's defensive coordinator, Robert Livingston. He was someone under consideration according to Nick Underhill. I don't watch a lot of college football, but I can tell you that Colorado's defense really isn't that good. I don't know how much of that is the coordinator or the players, but definitely a little surprising that that's the route that they were considering. They ended up going with Brandon Staley, and I'm assuming there's maybe a few other guys that weren't reported that they were looking into for the defensive coordinator position. Now, when it comes to Brandon Staley, he definitely is going to bring over a new philosophy and culture to the defense. With Dennis Allen, it was a lot of man coverage. It was a lot of non-blitzes. It was 4-3 defense instead of 3-4. With Brandon Staley, I think we can expect a transition into a 3-4 defense. I'll pull it up right here. Jeff Nowak says that obviously he worked with Vic Fangio, like we said earlier, but the scheme he runs is a variant of Fangio's scheme. Would make a lot of sense if more liked what he saw in Philly, and then to bring Staley over and let him add his own variants to the defense. The Saints will obviously have to transition into a 3-4. They can't just change the scheme cold blood. They're going to have to transition into it. They don't have the players to run it, so they're going to have to draft a few guys, sign a few guys over the next few years to eventually transition this defense in this front defensive line in general before they can fully run a 3-4, which is good. The defense needs a new identity. It needs a new look. The defense as a whole needs to be fixed. They were 19th in scoring defense this year, 30th in total defense, 27th against the pass, and 31st against the run in 2024. There's a lot of things that need to be fixed on this defense, and Brandon Staley is going to be the guy leading that way. Something I'm interested to see is how he utilizes Alontae Taylor. We've all seen the talent that he has. His rookie year when he was an outside corner, killed it. Struggled when he transitioned into the slot his second year. In the third year, the first half of the year, he killed it when he got a full offseason to focus on the slot position. And then when he transitioned back to outside corner after the Marshawn Lattimore trade, he struggled a little bit more. So I'm curious to see what Brandon Staley does. It's obvious that he prioritizes his players and puts them in position to have success. Alontae Taylor is a guy who seems like he could do a lot of different things pretty well. How does he prioritize him, and how does he fit into that defense overall? After the Super Bowl, Alontae Taylor went on Instagram Live talking about Kellen Moore, saying, "We need the best DC you can find. We're trying to get to the ship." And here's the full clip.
You want a ship in your new place. For you hire as a defensive coordinator, he gotta come crazy. We trying to play all that. Yo. Man, we ain't playing none of that soft stuff. Come on. Everybody screen recording this. I know y'all finna share it on all your little social media pages. Kellen Moore, we need the best DC you can find that's available. We trying to go to the ship.
And then after the news was announced that Brandon Staley was named the defensive coordinator of the Saints, he took to Instagram, reposted the news that he was the defensive coordinator. Then on the next story, posted a video of his highlights. This is a screenshot of it, and put, "Just unleash me. I'm going to make shit happen." Basically, put me in position to make plays and I'm going to make it happen. Be the best DC you can be. Put me in position to have success and shit is going to happen. Now that Brandon Staley is the Saints defensive coordinator, and the defense is going to have to be revamped a little bit, and they're going to have to sign some free agents. Some guys who he has worked with in the past who are free agents this offseason, and the Saints could possibly look into signing, include these 4 names. Safety John Johnson, we all should know that name from the 2018 championship game. Had a breakout year with Brandon Staley as the Rams defensive coordinator. That is true. John Johnson had a really good season with Brandon Staley. John Johnson's a pretty good safety. I don't know how he's been doing recently. Maybe that's a guy they could look into. They do need some safety help. Sebastian Joseph Day for nose tackle worked with Staley with this time as the Rams defensive coordinator, then followed him to the Chargers with Staley and when he became the head coach. He's projected to be 2 years, $8.9 million. The Saints could definitely do a contract like that if they get under the cap, if they end up not cutting Derek Carr. And the Saints could use a nose tackle as well. They need some big boys in the middle to help stop the run. 31st ranked defense. They could use a guy like this who can help transition them into a 3-4 defense. Linebacker Troy Reeder worked with Staley during his time with the Rams and then followed him to the Chargers when he became the head coach. We had 2 players follow him to the Chargers after he became the head coach. Obviously, the players like him. They liked his leadership. And if they're following him, that says something about him as a coach or maybe defensive coordinator in general. And then down here, Asante Samuel, cornerback. I don't see this one happening at all. I don't see them spending a whole lot of money on a guy when they could maybe draft Will Johnson if he's there at pick 9. Now, we did pull up some footage of some players and coaches talking about Brandon Staley during the 2024 season, as he was a 49ers assistant coach this past season. The first one we're going to pull up is of Diamador Lenore. I hope I said his name right. Talking about Brandon Staley during training camp, and he even called him a genius. Something I want to say, typically I see these clips before I watch and record the videos. I have not seen this clip. I saw the headline, someone retweeted it, I bookmarked it, and now I'm reacting to it. This is my first time seeing this clip and hearing it.
You've been working with Brandon Staley for the first time. He's working with you one-on-one a lot. What's your impression of him so far?
Oh, he's a genius. I really respect him, as a coach, as a person.
Didn't he just get a huge extension too? Didn't he, or am I thinking of Chardavius Ward? One of these 49ers defensive backs got a huge contract. I can't remember if it was this guy or not though.
As a coach, as a person, the joy he brings to our room, and with just the knowledge, of teaching us so many things, it's a blessing to have him there.
Can't really say too much about that negatively. Like, he's happy he was there, said it was a blessing to have him. His knowledge is very helpful. All bonuses from a defensive standpoint. And for Staley, all the things he struggled with as a head coach for the Chargers was clock management, situational awareness. He's not going to have to worry about any of that stuff as the defensive coordinator for the Saints. That's Kellen Moore's job now. His focus is now the defense and getting his defensive players to have success.
That you've learned from him that you're just like, wow, I never thought of this like that before or something?
Playing the angles of football, and playing the percentages.
I don't even know what that means, but that sounds smart.
Kind of told me like the percentages of you getting a fade every down is less likely. So why would you play that? With
that makes sense. That's smart. I like that. That's really cool.
The start of the downs. Actually think when you out there, you already got the talent. Just use your brain and the plays will come.
And now one of his former players, Jalen Ramsey, even responded and put out a tweet talking about his former coach. He just put out saying, my guy, responding to the Brandon Staley news. So obviously Jalen Ramsey loves him. This is a guy who might end up in the Hall of Fame, and he's showing respect and showing that he really likes Brandon Staley as a coach. Back in 2021, Jalen Ramsey was asked about Brandon Staley, and he said, Staley is the best defensive coordinator that I've ever had for sure in the NFL. And that's not a shot at previous defensive coordinators he's worked with a lot in LA or Jacksonville. He just said Staley is a smart guy and he knows how to put players in position to make an impact on the game. This is back in 2021. But I think a guy like Jalen Ramsey, one of the premier cornerbacks in NFL history, in my opinion, saying this about him as a defensive coordinator says a lot. The next steps now is that Brandon Staley will be putting together his coaching staff on defense, the defensive line coach, the cornerback coach, and stuff like that, linebackers coach. But it was important to get this hire done, getting defensive coordinator Brandon Staley in the building before the combine next week so he can help be a part of that process, evaluating players and their talent, answering and asking questions to figure out which guys in this upcoming draft can really benefit and help out the team, especially on defense. Let me know what you make of the Brandon Staley hire down in the comments below. I know there's a few mixed bags and emotions about him, and I understand it. So let me know down in the comments what you think of the hire. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. We're trying to hit 10K this year. Have a good one, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.